Congressman, great to see you.
Great seeing you as always. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Let's begin. We're going to get to unemployment and jobs and policy, but we must begin with
why I'm running.
And we'll get to that as well, but let's begin with the news of the day, which is
jobs.
Which is
moving the economy.
We're going to get there. Hold on.
All right.
You are under investigation by the FBI. According to several sources, we've reported that. The Miami Herald, El Nuevo Herald, Reuters has done that as recently as last week. You were saying, hey, I don't know anything about an investigation, don't you?
Well, here's the deal. Here's the reality, which I've said for the past 2 years. No federal agency, none whatsoever, has ever stated or ever confirmed that David Rivera is under investigation for anything. In fact, the only candidate in this race that we know is under federal investigation is my opponent, Joe Garcia. In fact, he's been under. No, well, let me remember. You told me I would have a chance to respond to these allegations.
And I want to get to whatever the FEC thinks is going on.
Well, I will get to it right now. The federal government, a federal agency, and for the last 2 years, a federal agency has been investigating my opponent for breaking campaign laws. The only candidate in this race that has been under federal investigation for the last 2 years is my opponent, Joe Garcia. And here I will hand you all of the documents demonstrating that investigation going back for the last 2 years. So again, as I said many times, for the last 2 years, no federal agency has ever stated or confirmed that I'm under investigation for anything.
If I may say, I'm not a lawyer. I haven't seen all these documents.
Just for your records, that's all.
That's great.
Just you know,
he apparently failed to report some contributions of $5,000 or more, which is required by the FEC, but that's not...
It's actually a lot more than that. That's going back 2 years. You're just talking about the latest federal investigation of my opponent, but this goes back 2 years worth of federal investigations.
We'll get more into Mr. Garcia presently, but you know, you've hired a very good criminal defense attorney, Michael Band. I've only known him for about as long as I've known you. If you're not under federal investigation, why have you hired Mr. Band?
Actually, that's also inaccurate. I haven't hired Michael Band. I haven't hired any.
I've spoken with him. He says he represents
you. Because he was helpful to me in a separate investigation involving the state attorney here locally, which had charges that were all found to be baseless and unfounded, and he was very helpful with that. But I haven't hired any attorney for any federal investigations. That's completely false.
So, as far as you're saying on the record, you have never been notified that you are a target of a federal grand jury investigation, or the FBI has never asked to speak with you?
Michael, absolutely not. Look at me. No federal agency has ever stated or confirmed that I'm under investigation. The only candidate that has been under federal investigation for the last 2 years that's in this race is my opponent.
All right. Well, some of the political vendors whom you have used in the past have told me and other reporters that FBI agents have come to them and asked about your alleged involvement in the campaign of Justin Lamar Sternad, the Democrat who ran in the August primary, and they said that you were at least tangentially involved in Mr. Sternad's campaign.
Well, one of those vendors I think you're talking about is Hugh Cochran, which I know you've spoken to. Let me play you a little tape from Mr. Cochran, a voicemail that he left with the Miami Herald reporter that is involved in running this story, just so you know Mr. Cochran's agenda.
You don't need to call me back. I'm just giving you Alina's phone number that I have, which is her mobile number, 305-934-1241. 305-934-1241, Alina Garcia. You may also want to look up property records. She has 2 or 3 rental properties that she maintains. It's always possible.
What's the point here? I mean, listen, I haven't heard the meat yet.
One of her rental properties. Anyway, that's all I know.
What you just heard was him telling the Miami Herald reporter he may want to look at some of my staff members' rental properties to see if that person is hiding one of the people he alleges that I'm associated with in this campaign. And what this shows, Michael, is the agenda of that source, trying to concoct and fabricate more defamatory information against me, a voicemail, individual, conclusive,
I don't know who you were speaking to, and
he was leaving a voicemail for Manny Garcia, the reporter who's writing the stories. If you would, and I'll leave you this tape as well, so you can have that. So again, you said there's a source. You said just now that there's a source that you spoke to that said that has some relationship with this campaign.
Well,
here's that same source
and another, and I've spoken. All right, let me say I've spoken to Hugh Cochran. I've known him for many years.
You just heard him,
former FBI agent. And he told me that you had asked him to prepare some very sophisticated sophisticated, targeted list of voters for a campaign, and at one point when they were all Democrats or they were African Americans, niche voters, that he wondered why you wanted this list, and then he said they wound up being sent. Mailers were sent out for the Stern ad
And you
campaign.
just heard that same individual leaving a voicemail from a Miami Herald reporter trying to fabricate defamatory information.
You say Manny Garcia,
Absolutely.
the editor of El
Correct.
Nuevo Herald, is trying to fabricate?
No, you just heard that source that you just referred to leaving a message trying to fabricate defamatory information on my campaign. Look, this is part of the political silly season. Let me just say this. I have said on many occasions, and look at me again, Michael, there is absolutely no federal agency that has said I'm under investigation for anything. I have said on many occasions that I absolutely, completely disavow, reject, and deny all of the false allegations that have been printed in these Miami Herald stories.
And I have reported that as well. I need to ask you, what is your relationship with Ana Allegro?
As I've said on many occasions, she's a political consultant. For the last 10 years, I've known her here in South Florida as a political consultant, as many other professionals that work in that industry.
Mm-hmm. Did she managed Stern Ad's campaign, and according to reporting by Manny Garcia and Mark Caputo, at some point she referred to you in Stern Ad's presence as DR repeatedly. She wouldn't say your name, and as the gangster. Now, I don't know.
That's not the case, Michael. What you're talking about are, again, anonymous sources that have been referred to in Herald stories. No source has ever got on the record saying any of this. You're repeating scandalous, scurrilous, rumor-mongering, tabloid journalism from the Herald. And I understand, you know, you work for the Herald, you're on their payroll. I understand they're very reputable.
I am a freelance writer for the Herald. I'm not really on their payroll.
They don't pay you for your articles?
They need to pay me a lot more than they pay me for my articles.
So they pay you for your articles.
Yeah.
So I understand you have to defend their journalism, but these are anonymous sources.
I don't have to
Well, you're
defend their
referring to
journalism.
them. These are anonymous sources. No one has ever said on the record that any of that is true.
Cochran and John Barrero have told me, they told David Adams of Reuters, that, you know, that you were involved somehow in the Stern Ad campaign.
Well, actually, Mr. Barrero, in all confirmed reports, has never said that. The only person that's gone on record saying that is the gentleman that I just played a tape, who's trying to fabricate information defamatory to my candidacy.
Let's